Welcome to my free training, Must-Do Habits to Lower Inflammation, Cool Down, and Feel Better Now. The strategies that really work. You are in the perfect place if you are ready to take charge of your health because you want to feel better in your mind and body, and you want to do that quickly. You're in the perfect place if you're frustrated by conflicting advice. So much is out there, and you keep falling back into your old habits that you know are leading to weight gain or brain fog or increased pain or any other malady that you can possibly come up with. You're in the perfect place if you need someone who knows exactly what they're talking about, to take you by the hand and show you and tell you exactly what to do. And you are in the perfect place if you know in your heart of hearts that it's time to take action and address something that is absolutely essential to your well-being. So what are we going to do today? By joining me for this free training, you're going to learn what inflammation is and the difference between healthy inflammation and toxic inflammation. You're going to learn which of your habits are driving this toxic inflammation and which of your habits are helping it or assuaging that toxic inflammation. You're going to learn the 3 specific lifestyle strategies that overwhelming solid science is telling us are incredibly effective at calming that toxic inflammation down. And number 4, you're going to learn why building these habits into your day-to-day living can be transformative for your well-being, for all aspects of your health. Now, because I know what this message, this part of this free training can do for your health and quality of life, I mean, absolutely rock your world in such a good way, I'm doing everything I can to incentivize you to watch to the end. And if you do, you're going to get actually 3 special bonuses. One is going to be a printable, really user-friendly, detailed plan of action, not just outlining. I'm telling you step by step what you ultimately need to do in your life to fully leverage each of these 3 lifestyle strategies for quieting that damaging inflammation. Okay, so that's bonus number 1. Bonus number 2, you're going to get exclusive free access to a course, I'll call it a mini course, I recently created to teach people about the power of their breath. Not only breathing properly, but how you can tap into very simple breathing practices to improve your mental well-being, your emotional well-being, your cognitive well-being, and your health, right, of the body. And it's going to include the practices that I do in my own life. And there's this 3rd special bonus that I'm not going to tell you till you get to the very end. So further incentive, right, because you should want to know what that is, to keep watching. All right, before we begin, I want to share a bit about who I am, how did Dr. Ann get here, and also share a very recent story in my life where this particular message was very, very timely, and how it intersected in my life with a very, very personal way. So I think that there are going to be some people watching this that don't know anything about me. Perhaps some of you do. Great. And bear with me while I share with others that don't know who in the heck is Dr. Ann. So I am a physician. I'm an MD, and I'm a physician that specifically specializes in wellness education. So my whole focus as a physician is teaching people what they can do through diet and lifestyle to be as healthy as possible, right? I knew from the age of 4 that I wanted to be a doctor. I'm from this ridiculously long lineage, heritage of physicians and scientists in my family. Grandfathers, great-grandfathers, great-great-great-grandfathers, fathers, sister, my husband, cousins, children, right? They're about, over 6 or 7 generations, about 23 members of my family, if you include my mom's side and my father's side, that went to medical school and that are clinicians. So I'm convinced that health and medicine are literally a part of my DNA. And I was a teenager, knowing that I was going to have this plan to be a doctor. I became passionately interested in nutrition. And I think I was so interested in it because I realized, oh my gosh, this is something that I can do, and I can feel it, and I can see the changes in my own body. And of course, I was reading enough science even then to see that that was the case. And I ended up studying nutrition in college, knowing I wanted to go to medical school. If you study what you love, you're always going to make super great grades. And anyway, so I got my undergraduate degree in food science and human nutrition. Then I went on to medical school, and to my shock and my surprise, I ended up just doing ridiculously well in medical school. I was not anticipating this, but I ended up graduating as the valedictorian of my class. I received almost every academic honor that they give at my particular medical school. And I'm sharing this with you, not that I'm trying to toot my horn, but because I want to convey to you that I am a credentialed expert. I know what I'm talking about. And I've devoted, essentially the last 25 years just studying nutrition and lifestyle and how it impacts our health, okay? There's so many, quackos now, that influencers that people are listening to from social media that speak with such authority, that speak with such conviction, like they are truly experts, and they are not. And for those of us that really are the experts and the experts, it makes us crazy. So I want you to have the confidence and the comfort that you can trust what I'm telling you. It is evidence-based. The only way Dr. Ann rolls is through that science, right? Evidence-based, the best science, right? Okay. Now, after I went to medical school, the world was my oyster, and I ended up, not going to tell you that story, but I ended up in primary care, and I fell in love with it. And I had a bread and butter, very robust, very successful primary care practice, and I did that for about 20 years. And as I evolved in my practice, it became very, very clear to me, and we had the science flooding us, telling us this too, that most all the things I was seeing in my clinical practice could be prevented through diet and lifestyle. And remember, I had that passionate interest in those things, particularly the nutrition piece. And I noticed when I talked to my patients about it, they loved it. They were just like all ears, and like, they loved it. And I also noticed that when I did share those things with them, it would empower them, and they'd come back and they'd say, oh my gosh, Dr. Ann, I started doing the exercise regimen, or started eating these foods you were telling me, and I just can't believe what it's done for me. Anyway, so I saw an opportunity, and I took this massive leap of faith, and I walked away from that very, very successful, thriving clinical practice to devote myself to wellness education. And that was 23, 24 years ago, and boy, what a ride, a joyful, amazing, crazy ride it has been. In that time, I've used every possible channel I could to get the message out. I used to have a recurrent dream where I am on a rooftop, and I have a huge megaphone that reaches everyone in the world, and I am just screaming out all these things that I know that people could easily do that could be transformative for how they feel and whether or not they're going to die, in a month or 10 years or anyway. And so what did I do in those 23 years? I wrote 6 books. Several of them are best-selling, award-winning. I've delivered hundreds of speeches on stages. I'm a professional motivational speaker. I've done it all over the country. I've even gone out of the country doing my speaking. I've been quoted and featured in numerous media outlets, including the Dr. Oz Show, Oprah and Friends Radio, Time Magazine, U.S. News World Report, Prevention, and on and on and on, many others. I did radio very regularly in the Midwest and the Southeast for years. Love radio. Anyway, so I used every possible channel I could to preach the gospel of healthy living through nutrition and lifestyle, because I know what it can do for people, right? Anyway, so that's my story there. What about this whole inflammation thing in my life? Well, about 6 months ago, I dislocated my hip, and I did that myself. I mean, I was doing yoga. I love yoga. It was a very advanced pose. I'm a pusher. I'm someone that pushes 20% beyond my limit. That was a mistake. I've learned from that mistake. And to dislocate your hip is a really big deal. It went right back in, but on the way out and on the way in, unfortunately, it damages structures. So Dr. Ann is suddenly facing a very, very significant injury with some very significant damage that she's got to heal. And it was extremely painful. Pain is caused by inflammation. So suddenly I doubled down. The things I'm sharing with you today are things, first of all, I've been doing, practicing all these things forever, but I really, really doubled down and was doing these things as almost as perfectly as, I would say as perfectly as I humanly could, right? So I can attest to their power. In the last 6 months, there's no question they have dramatically helped me with my pain, and there's no question they've dramatically helped me even with my healing. Okay. The other thing is, I had a child about a year ago contact me who had a really some sort of semi-ominous lab work that clearly indicated that he was not, that he had some excess inflammation, and that he needed to really wake up. And he admitted to me, although he's very knowledgeable and is really good with exercise, he admitted to me that his diet, he had a lot of stress and his diet was not great. And sure enough, I just sent in the same information, and completely within 6 weeks had dropped like 17 pounds. That abnormal lab work was totally resolved, and he's been sailing healthily on since that time. Anyway, so the message is powerful. It's relevant in my own life, and I promise I know what I'm talking about. Okay. So the other thing is, because I have been so relentless in what I do for the last 23 years with books and speeches and media appearances and on and on and on, I've had the opportunity to frankly engage with, I would guesstimate, hundreds of thousands of people, right? I mean, there were 30,000 people on a radio show at least, maybe more than that at a time. And anyway, as a result of that, naturally, I have received lots of wonderful testimonials back from people. And weekly I get messages, and it may be secondhand, like someone sees me on the street and says something, or writes me an email, or says something to my husband, because a lot of his patients, or they know me and they follow my stuff. Anyway, so I share that because these are people just like you. These are people just like you. Some of them had enormous health challenges. And I've seen it over and over and over and over. That is actually the fuel for my passion engine, is just seeing what these people do when they're simply given the information, given the proper guidance, and given just enough motivation that they can actually take action. So I thought it'd be fun to read a couple of testimonials from some of my students. So this is from Alexandra Adams. I have dropped several sizes, sleep better, stay alert, have not missed any work in the last 2 months for sickness, been working out daily except for Sunday, and doing it in the morning before work, of all things. I get up in the morning, spend time with God, and then jump up and work out. I am loving it. Dr. Ann, just loving it. Thank you, Alexandra Adams. And from Karen Snow. Your course was a true eye-opener, and your presentation was phenomenal. You brought it from a scientific level into a real world, real people, I can do this kind of way. With much anticipation, I look forward to eating up your resources wholeheartedly. There are no coincidences in life. I am so glad our paths crossed. I actually met Karen in the dog park, right? And one thing many people share with me that is hard for me to see is that I have this really unusual, kind of uncanny knack of taking things that seem complicated, science that seem complicated, and making it like really easy to grasp and to kind of sink your teeth into permanently. A couple more things for a transition to these 3 lifestyle strategies, to the content of this free training. If you are still watching, you have proven to me that you have what it takes to take action. Because at the end of the day, really getting healthier is 100% about taking action, right? And you don't have to, conquer the world tomorrow. It's about one step. It can be a baby step. It can even be a micro commitment, right? A micro commitment is something that is so easy for you to do that you can't fail, because even micro changes, right? Micro commitments when it comes to your health can have a meaningful and make a meaningful impact, all right? Perfection is not required. It's actually the enemy. And all you need to do is take some sort of action, and action right now. And at this point, the most important action to take is that you have an open heart and that you have an open and curious mind. That's all that's required right now, okay? So, why is this training so pivotal for your life? If you don't already know it, inflammation is the primary driver of almost every single chronic disease, the primary driver of almost all health maladies. 8 of the top 10 leading causes of death are inextricably linked to inflammation. It's heart disease. It is all the metabolic diseases. It is weight gain. It is obesity. It is fatty liver disease. It is metabolic syndrome. It is some cancers. It is dementia. It is neurodegenerative conditions. Of course, it's type 2 diabetes. It's prediabetes, because those are metabolic issues. It is asthma. It is allergies. It is autoimmune conditions. It's virtually all the mental health conditions. Mental health conditions are, inflammation in the brain is a part of all of them. Okay, it is poor stress resiliency. It is, oh my God, I'm like chronically stressed. I'm stressed all the time, right? Because inflammation really makes you prone to what we call this kind of toxic stress. We'll be talking about that later. What else? It's about pretty much anything you could name, right? Poor energy, pain. All pain is caused by inflammation, right? So that's really important to understand. That's why this training has such impact, and that's why I'm so passionate about making sure you're grasping it and learning this. The second thing that is really important to know is that you have enormous control over that inflammation. Obviously, I wouldn't be doing this free training. You have massive control over the level of this toxic, this damaging inflammation that drives diseases. You have control over that in your own body. Okay, so you are the driver of that train, right? You are the captain of that ship. My job is going to be to motivate you, inspire you. I'm good at that. And to teach you in a way that you can understand it, the key steps to take to calm this toxic inflammation down. Okay, there are 5 steps that we know, based on incredible science and loads of studies, that individuals can take to lower toxic inflammation in their bodies.